Noah and Mrs. Wilson had stayed up last night, carefully planning this whole thing. Today, he'd even brought in the more respected members of the Wilson family, staging a kind of family trial. It was part temptation, part threat. The goal was to get Jacob to hand over the villa willingly, and if he wouldn't do it on his own, they'd force him. In Noah's mind, Jacob was always the biggest coward. Just a sharp word from their mother usually made him tremble. He was sure Jacob would hand over the villa without a fight. As for Clare, he couldn't care less. What right does a married woman have to say anything, especially one married to a good-for-nothing like him? And as for that loser Charlie, forget about it. The house husband had zero standing in the Wilson family. He didn't even have the right to speak. If they told him to hand over the villa, he was expected to do it, no questions asked. However, Noah never expected Jacob to get so bold that he'd dare talk back to their mother. And Clare, her granddaughter, completely ignored her. Even that good-for-nothing Charlie had the nerve to point in her face and call her shameless. That family of his is completely out of line. Noah gritted his teeth, turning back to his mother. Mom, you can't just let them walk out of here like this. If you let them get away with this today, soon enough they'll be walking all over the rest of the Wilson family. What authority will you have left in this family? Mrs. Wilson's face was a mask of pure fury. She had an obsessive need to control everyone's life. After her husband died, she kept the entire Wilson family under her thumb and wouldn't let anyone challenge her power. But she never imagined she'd face such defiance from Clare's family of 3, and it filled her with rage. She roared hysterically, "It's a disgrace that the Wilson family produced a branch like yours. You are all part of my family, and as long as I am alive, you will listen to me." With that, Mrs. Wilson shouted, "Lock the doors! It's time for some family discipline." She had absolute authority in the Wilson family, and Jacob, who was usually so submissive, had dared to defy her today. His daughter and even his son-in-law were completely ignoring her. She couldn't believe Jacob had raised such a disrespectful child. If they weren't severely punished today, what would become of her authority as head of the family? Besides, if they were allowed to just walk away, how could she get her hands on the Thompson estate? She had lived her whole life and never dreamed she would get to live in a villa like that. Now that it belonged to her son's family, she was determined to take it and enjoy it for herself. Therefore, no matter what, they had to be forced to surrender the villa. Even if they left the Wilson family, the villa had to stay. At her command, a group of bodyguards and hired hands immediately surrounded the 3 of them. Charlie stood in the courtyard of the old mansion, his presence commanding. He glared at the bodyguards and shouted, "Whoever takes another step forward will regret it." "You piece of trash! You think you're tough here?" one of the bodyguards yelled, lunging at Charlie with an eyebrow stick. Charlie's eyes were like ice. He snatched the eyebrow stick from the man's hand and, with a flick of his wrist, struck the man's leg. The bodyguard felt a sharp, cracking pain in the back of his knee. His leg buckled, and he collapsed to the ground in front of Charlie, his leg clearly broken. Charlie didn't even glance down at him. With a simple squeeze, he snapped the eyebrow stick in 2 with a sharp crack. He then tossed the broken pieces to the ground. Everyone in the yard was shocked. The stick was made from solid golden oak, which is incredibly tough. Even 2 strong men would have a hard time breaking it. But in Charlie's hands, it snapped like a dry twig. It was that easy. After studying the mystic texts, Charlie's strength had grown immensely. These bodyguards were no match for him. Seeing Charlie in action, Jacob breathed a sigh of relief. He never expected his son-in-law to be so capable. It looked like he and his daughter were going to get out of the Wilson family's house safely after all. The bodyguards at the old house were all hired by Noah. They were his guys. Seeing how strong Charlie was, they all started to get nervous. Noah Wilson gritted his teeth. "Charlie, I didn't realize you knew some amateur hour martial arts, but let's see how you handle all of us at once. Get him! Yeah, let's get him! Finish him!" Harold chimed in, his face twisted with anger. He'd lost to Charlie before and was itching for payback. The group of bodyguards got the order and charged at Charlie. Charlie didn't even flinch. As the first few guards rushed him, he spun into a roundhouse kick, sending 2 of them flying. Then, with a blur of quick punches, he dropped the next guard who came at him. Claire, standing behind him, was in shock. She had no idea the man she lived with every day was this good at fighting. Seeing the shocked look on his daughter's face, Jacob quickly explained, "Claire, when you're at work, Charlie stays home and follows those martial arts workout videos on TV." "He practices martial arts?" Claire asked, completely stunned. Jacob said, "He knows a lot. Remember when Christian Knox asked him for help?" Watching Charlie fight off the bodyguards, Jacob felt a pang of guilt. The Wilson family had always looked down on Charlie, treating him like a live-in maid. But Charlie was still a man with his own pride. What man would be happy just cooking and cleaning his whole life? It felt like the family had really done him wrong. Meanwhile, Charlie was taking down one bodyguard after another, completely fearless. The courtyard was a total mess. Wendy and Mrs. Wilson had already run inside to hide, leaving only the men in the courtyard. Harold watched from the side, looking furious. He never imagined Charlie was this skilled. Seeing Charlie getting the upper hand, Harold gritted his teeth. He bent down, picked up an axe, and crept up behind Charlie just as he kicked another bodyguard away. He swung the axe right at Charlie's head. "Charlie, look out!" Claire screamed, seeing the glint of the axe. "Damn you, you worthless loser! I'm going to kill you!" Harold roared, all his old anger and new frustration boiling over as he swung the axe with all his might. Jacob was so scared that his legs went weak and he nearly collapsed. He was trying to kill Charlie. The axe blade flashed. Just as the axe was about to hit, Charlie suddenly shot his hand up. He caught the axe blade between 2 fingers and slowly turned his head to stare coldly at Harold. Harold was stunned. He pulled with all his might, trying to wrench the axe free, but Charlie's 2 fingers were like a steel vise. No matter how hard Harold pulled, the axe wouldn't budge an inch. Cold sweat dripped down Harold's forehead. He roared, "You loser! Let me go!" Charlie stared at him and sneered. "Harold, you're such an idiot. You can't even hit someone properly. You're pathetic." "You're just going to stand there and watch Harold try to kill him?" Jacob finally snapped, roaring with anger as he saw Harold swinging the axe at Charlie. But Mrs. Wilson, sitting in her chair, and Noah standing on the steps, didn't move a muscle. They didn't even blink. The other relatives from the Wilson family just stood there silently, as if it had nothing to do with them. All Mrs. Wilson cared about right then was the villa, and the others, of course, wanted it too. Sometimes the older people get, the greedier they become. The more they have, the more they want, hoping to live out their final years in luxury. Mrs. Wilson wanted a better place to live, a better place to die, and a better place to be buried. She believed it would guarantee her a life of endless wealth and glory in the next life. That's why old people often want to have an expensive coffin and a fancy grave prepared. For Mrs. Wilson, getting that $130 million villa was all that mattered. Even if Harold actually killed Charlie, it wouldn't matter as long as she got the house. Jacob and Claire looked at their so-called family and their hearts went completely cold. So this is what blood relatives meant. They were willing to plot and scheme, even kill, just to steal property. Noah finally spoke, his voice calm and unbothered. "Jacob, Harold is still just a kid. He's playing around. Why are you taking it so seriously? Besides, even if he did manage to cut Charlie, he's not really a Wilson, is he?" In Noah's mind, Charlie was just a house husband with no power or influence. Even if Harold did bash his brains in, the worst that would happen is they'd have to pay some money. That's how they'd get rid of the problem and get the money. The villa was worth $130 million, and with housing prices soaring, if they got their hands on it now, they could let Mrs. Wilson live in it first. By the time she passed away, the place would probably be worth at least $300 million. $300 million. All of it would be theirs. With that much money on the line, who could possibly resist? "You're no brother of mine," Jacob roared, grabbing a nearby mop and swinging it hard at Harold. Noah Wilson frowned, worried his son would get hurt, and immediately jumped in the way to stop him. "What is wrong with you? Have you lost your mind?" Noah yelled. Before he could finish, Jacob swung the mop again. Noah dodged, but the handle still smacked him on the shoulder, making him wince in pain. Seeing her father, who was normally so calm and easygoing, this furious, made Claire's stomach churn. She hated the Wilson family's cruelty and was terrified for Charlie's safety. At that moment, Charlie, still holding the axe blade, looked down at Harold with a smirk. "Harold, let me be honest," he whispered. "In my eyes, you're a complete joke." "Screw you, Charlie!" Rage flushed Harold's face. "You're a worthless loser! How dare you talk to me like that?" Before he could finish his sentence, Charlie grabbed his wrist and twisted it back sharply. There was a sickening snap, and Harold let out a blood-curdling scream. Charlie had bent his right hand back a full 180 degrees, breaking it clean. Harold howled in agony, collapsing to the ground in a sobbing heap.
Hey amazing viewers, it's Charlie here. Thanks for sticking with us. By the time of the release of this video, only 11% of our viewers have joined the party by subscribing, and 89% of you might miss out on our next mind-blowing video. So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and join the exclusive club.